Well, Pope Leo has toured the Blue Mosque in the Turkish city of Istanbul. This is his first visit to a Muslim place of worship. The Pontiff has been meeting with Christian leaders from across the Middle East on his first overseas trip since his appointment. The Pope is expected to travel on to Lebanon, where he will hold Mass at the Beirut waterfront, paying tribute to victims of the 2020 port explosion. Well, people from around the world have lined the streets to catch a glimpse of the Pope.
I'm from Equatorial Guinea, and I'm very excited for today.
In this time of war and of unstable world, it's a symbol of peace and above all a symbol of brotherhood between religion, particularly Islam and Christianity.
He is the first American Pope, so that was exciting. I wanted to make sure that we come and catch a glimpse of him.
Earlier I spoke to EWTN News' Vatican reporter Colin Flynn about the Pope's itinerary.
This was an incredible moment. It was his last full day in Istanbul, and this morning he entered the mosque right in the centre of the city. 21,000 blue tiles, which is where it got its nickname, the Blue Mosque. And it was a lovely moment when Pope Leo XIV was walking through with the people who run the mosque there, his Muslim counterparts. And it was a lovely moment of contemplation and reflection, because the Vatican had announced as part of the official schedule that he was going to take a moment to pray, and that he would pray with the Muslim who is in charge of the actual call to prayer that you hear echoing out from the mosque. But that didn't actually happen. And when the Muslim who's in charge of that was talking to the media afterwards, he said that he actually invited Pope Leo there inside the mosque. He said, "Would you like to pray with me now?" To which Pope Leo said, politely, we're told, "No, I'm just here to pay a visit." Now, this is different than what his predecessors have done. Both Pope Benedict XVI and Pope Francis prayed within the mosques when they came to visit Istanbul on their papal apostolic journeys. So this was, Pope Leo putting his stamp on things and doing things a little bit differently. And there was one funny moment, actually, Joe, when he was leaving the mosque and walking out the door. He noticed that he was walking through a door that is normally an entryway, and he said to the group that was with him, he said, "It says up here, no exit." And they said, "Well, if you want, you can stay here."
A little bit of humour there. What's on the agenda now, Colm, for the Pope then as he heads off to Lebanon?
Yeah, the rest of the day was jam-packed. He had different meetings with Christian groups. He had a mass in Turkey in the Volkswagen Arena. And that was incredible because it's the first time that a Catholic mass has been allowed to be celebrated outside of a church, because they have religious freedom and tolerance. Christians there will say, to a certain degree, you can't practice your faith outside of your place of worship. So 4,000 people were there. It was a joyous occasion. Tomorrow he will fly here to where I am, to Beirut in Lebanon. This is a country that, of course, has been struggling with its conflict with Israel, with the economic crisis it is suffering, with the explosion at the Beirut harbour a number of years ago, which killed hundreds of people. So the Pope is coming here to show his solidarity and closeness to the people, but also to try and call for peace. And Joey, this is something that he has called on for the last few days in Turkey. It's something that we expect him to call on again and again. Peace, reconciliation and unity. Some of the main themes we've heard so far from this, his first trip as Pope outside of the Vatican, outside of Rome.
And what is the significance of him choosing Turkiye and Lebanon as his first trip?
Well, it's interesting because Pope Francis, before he passed away, had said that he wanted to visit Turkey to mark 1700 years, the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, which was this foundational unifying moment within Christianity. You had a lot of arguments and disputes about theology and the way the church should be run. And then 1700 years ago, they all came together and said, okay, let's agree on some of the fundamental things, like how do we see Jesus Christ? Some people thought he was just kind of a charismatic leader, just a very important prophet. They all decided together, no, he is divine, he is one with God. So to mark that, Pope Francis wanted to come and pray at the site. That couldn't happen, of course, because he passed away. So it's a sign, Joy, that he's continuing the legacy of Pope Francis, but it's also setting out his mark that, look, I want my papacy to be about reaching out to our Muslim brothers and people of other religions. He could have went to a country with a huge Christian population. In Lebanon, he'll be treated. There's around 30% of the population are Christian. But in Turkey, where he still is now, it's 0.05%. And of that Christian community, an even smaller number are Catholic. So it's a minority within a minority.
Foreign travel, Colm, has become such a significant part of the modern papacy. These trips involve meetings with country leaders. They involve huge crowds, as we've seen on this visit as well. What do they actually achieve? What's the purpose of these trips?
That's a great question. And, you know, there are political implications and there are also the spiritual closeness as well. You know, especially in countries where the Catholic community is smaller. Like I remember going with Pope Francis to places like Mongolia and Papua New Guinea, again, where there were no Catholics, but just the sign of the Pope being there. So although they might think sometimes, well, how important are we in the global sense of the Catholic family? We're a tiny minority here. We're not a big, powerful church. We don't have sway or influence. So to see the Pope coming, it gives them real encouragement in their faith to keep on going. But then politically as well, we live in a very turbulent time, especially here where I am in the Middle East at the moment. And does he have influence? Can the words of the Pope try and lower the temperature and lower the rhetoric? I think the Vatican see, well, you know, we have a soft power, not a hard power, and there needs to be a voice in the world constantly calling for peace and dialogue rather than people racing to arms.